You're about to witness the minute-by-minute breakdown of what should have been Russia and China's biggest combined victory, turned into their fastest collapse. We'll track the action from the first hypersonic missiles on radar, through the minefield ambushes, to the final noose that trapped two entire spearheads under Ukrainian artillery fire. It ends in destroyed tanks, burning amphibious craft, and a captured tablet so valuable it turned one battle into a permanent intelligence advantage. Let's walk through how this battlefield unraveling played out in real time. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. What happens when two of the world's largest armies combine their heaviest armor and most advanced bombers against one city? At 4:37 a.m., the answer began to unfold. Russian tank brigades rolled forward through the northern frontier, while Chinese warships closed their hatches in preparation for a shoreline assault. For a moment, the battlefield seemed tilted entirely against Ukraine. Radar sweeps returned almost nothing, suggesting flat fields of grass and dirt roads with no defenses in place. To the advancing forces, it looked like all that stood between them and a breakthrough was raw speed and firepower. The armored spearhead was enormous. Russia committed 60 Armata main battle tanks, each carrying a 125mm smoothbore gun designed to penetrate any NATO composite armor. Stretching back from the lead tanks came dozens of self-propelled howitzers, their barrels tilted skyward to rain down high explosive shells. Wagner detachments rode behind in armored personnel carriers, ready to dismount and push through small towns along the corridor. The value of this formation alone was staggering. Billions of dollars in steel, electronics, and trained manpower moving in one direction down a single highway. On the other flank, China prepared its own strike package. A Type 055 destroyer patrolled the sea lanes. Its radar arrays locked on airborne movement, while missile hatches opened one after another. Amphibious Type 726 landing craft lowered their ramps to deploy vehicles onto the shoreline as soon as the bombardment stopped. Overhead, H-6N bombers circled wide to set up a hammer strike using precision-guided cruise missiles. The plan was simple. The Russians would smash through on land, while Chinese forces blocked reinforcement routes from the sea and skies. Combined, the two militaries believed the defense would collapse inside of 48 hours. Yet, in the field ahead, something subtle had already changed. Ukrainian radar stations along the known invasion corridor shut down minutes before the first trackers reached the border. For satellite and electronic surveillance crews watching from afar, these gaps projected total weakness. Empty skies, no intercept data, no anti-air silhouettes. The kind of signal that emboldens a commander who wants momentum. The illusion of defenselessness was not an accident. It was set deliberately and timed with precision. Appearing weak was crucial. Military planners understand how much battlefield confidence can tilt decision-making. When surveillance beams revealed no hazard ahead, Russian drivers accelerated their columns, tightening their formations to make better time. Chinese naval officers, seeing no sign of coastal radar illumination, edged their destroyer closer into shallower waters, covering the landing zones with even more firepower. In their minds, the window to strike had opened wider than expected. But while enemy analysts marked clear, Ukrainian drones had already labeled each convoy and each ship formation. Reconnaissance quadcopters skimmed treetops, capturing detailed coordinates of fuel trucks and artillery batteries. High-altitude drones quietly mapped bomber orbits and destroyer cruising speed. Hours before the first missile launch, Ukrainian command posts had a complete three-dimensional picture of the attack. The open corridor showing on Russian and Chinese maps was in fact a trap built plank by plank through months of planning. So when the armored nose of the first Armata rolled into the sector, it did not enter a deserted landscape. It crossed into a calculated grid designed to corral machines worth millions into firing lanes worth pennies. Sensors hidden under abandoned farm equipment, camouflaged positions, dug along irrigation ditches, and pre-registered artillery coordinates now sat waiting for the command to activate. What looked like the opening of a decisive invasion was actually the start of a carefully baited ambush. But what happened when that lead tank crossed deeper into the corridor rewrote the logic of modern warfare. How can a 12-kilogram robot mine defeat a $4 million main battle tank in seconds? That reality came into focus the moment Russian engineers sent their mine-clearing vehicles forward. Long cables with explosive charges were fired across the fields, detonating in massive blasts meant to clear any buried threats. Soil and smoke lifted in columns, but the ground beneath them was empty. The detonations did nothing but shake loose branches and scatter dust, because the real Ukrainian defenses weren't static obstacles buried along the highway. They were waiting machines designed to move toward their targets. The first Armata tank to cross into the corridor appeared unstoppable. 35 tons of layered composite armor protected its crew, while reactive tiles lined its hull to defeat incoming charges. Yet as its treads gripped into a ditch carved by spring rains, the metal plate beneath shifted slightly. Hidden in the mud was a 12-kilogram tracked machine, no larger than a suitcase, rigged with a focused explosive charge designed to fire upward. When the Armata's forward wheel pressed down, the mine activated. The shaped explosion channeled a jet of molten copper through 700 millimeters of armor plating. In less than a second, the turret was forced upward, shearing off its locking ring and blasting into the morning air. Flames poured from the crew compartment as ammunition ignited, leaving nothing but a burning shell smoldering in the ditch. That single strike triggered panic along the column. Tank commanders swiveled their turrets side to side, scanning for threats that weren't visible. Three more armored vehicles followed the same path, each struck by mobile devices that had been positioned along irrigation canals during the night. In 3 minutes, 6 tanks were lost, and the crews that managed to escape tumbled out under the eyes of circling quadcopters. Coordinates were relayed back instantly, and within seconds mortars dropped shells in tight circles around the survivors, leaving no possibility of regrouping. While the armored column stalled, pressure built from the sea. Chinese Type 726 landing craft surged toward shore, ramps lowered and packed with vehicles ready to deploy. Above them, loitering drones armed with high explosive warheads pinpointed the first target. One drone dove directly onto a landing craft's deck, piercing through to the fuel compartment. The resulting detonation sent thick smoke skyward, flames racing along the vessel's corridors. Secondary explosions continued for several minutes as vehicles inside ignited one after another. The attempt at rapid insertion turned into burning wrecks, drifting helplessly toward the coastline. At the same time, radar operators detected incoming hypersonic missiles streaking toward Ukrainian positions. The speed of these weapons left only seconds to respond, but Ukrainian air defense crews were already primed. Iris-T and NASAMS launchers fired in coordinated salvos, intercepting multiple inbound threats with bright flashes across the horizon. The intercepts were not perfect. Some blasts shook the ground uncomfortably close to command centers, but the defenses held. The expectation of a swift, unanswered strike instead became a display of disciplined interception. By dawn, the combined assault looked fractured. Dozens of tanks smoldered. Landing craft burned along the coastline, and bomber formations circled far offshore, unwilling to approach the air defense umbrella. What had started as an advance, built on overwhelming momentum, collapsed into chaos. Commanders who expected to see a breakthrough instead watched their formations scatter under relentless remote-guided fire. And as the invaders remained pinned inside a shrinking corridor marked by wreckage, Ukrainian forces prepared a counter-strike designed not to hold the line, but to turn the battlefield into total victory. Russian and Chinese commanders expected strength to crush resistance, but instead their forces fell into layers of deception, hidden fire, and mobile defense. Tanks, ships, and bombers weren't destroyed by brute force alone. They were pulled into a corridor designed to strip away their momentum step by step. The greatest outcome came from what was left behind, when Ukrainian troops seized a command tablet carrying encrypted operational plans. The win extended far beyond one battle. Armored vehicles can be replaced, but initiative stolen, codes exposed, and morale broken cannot. Modern war rewards preparation and intelligence long before shots are fired.